Hi, I'm John Stevenson, and we're going to be looking at Psalm 125, the security of God's people. This is another of the Songs of Ascents. We've been seeing a number of those since Psalm 120, and it's going to continue to 134. So, a Song of Ascents, and now it begins. Those who trust in the Lord, and I hope that's you as a listener. I hope you're one who's trusting in the Lord. Those who trust in the Lord are as Mount Zion. Notice the uh, the comparison. They're like a mountain which cannot be moved. I know that Jesus talked about mountain moving faith, but normally you think of a mountain, it's here to stay. And so those who trust in the Lord are as Mount Zion, which cannot be moved but abides forever. And then notice the second simile. That's what a simile is. And so notice the synthetic parallelism. You start after the superscription. You start the psalm, the first line, those who trust in the Lord, and then you finish the idea in the next line. They are like Mount Zion, which cannot be moved but abides forever. Verse 2, we're going to have another simile. As the mountains, and again, it's got mountains again. And remember, as a psalm of ascent, these were sung as you were headed up to Jerusalem. That's one of the ideas of ascending, of the ascent. And Jerusalem, when you look at Jerusalem, Jerusalem is on a mountain, but it's surrounded by mountains as well. And so notice, as the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people. There's a surrounding taking place, and the physical surrounding of mountains around Jerusalem becomes a picture of the way God surrounds his people to care for them, to protect them. And notice this goes on from this time forth and forever. But notice this is those who trust in the Lord. This is his people who benefit. It's not just anyone. It's not even just anyone who happens to be in Jerusalem or happens, and I don't mean to be mean here, but who happens to be a physical descendant of Abraham. And if you are a physical descendant of Abraham, that's wonderful. I'm not downing that. I'm just saying I want you to be a spiritual descendant of Abraham as well. I want you to be one who trusts in the Lord, who is his people because you've trusted in the Lord from this time forth and forever. And so what we have here is a second synthetic parallel. That is, you say it, and then you finish the thought in the next line. Although technically, I guess we have two more lines, but still, it's finishing the thought. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people. And it's not just a temporary thing from this time forth and forever. We go to verse 3, for the scepter of wickedness. Now, we were talking about those who trust in the Lord. That's a good thing. That's where you want to be. A scepter of wickedness is not a good thing. A scepter is somebody who rules, and a scepter of wickedness is somebody who's ruling from an attitude or from a position of wickedness. For the scepter of wickedness shall not rest upon the land of the righteous. What's the land of the righteous? That's the land in which Jerusalem is located. We're thinking Israel. Or if this was after the divided kingdom, maybe we'd be thinking only of Judah. But that's okay. Same general idea. So notice the scepter of wickedness shall not rest upon the land of the righteousness, so that, and now we're going to have a repetition of the righteousness, so that the righteous will not put forth their hand to do wrong. What's the wrong? That's the wrong. That's the wicked that is connected to the scepter of wickedness. So notice you go from the scepter of wickedness. It won't rest on the land of the righteous, so that those who are righteous will not put their hands forth to do wrong. Now, there's an idea here when we talk about the scepter of wickedness. That's indicating leadership, and there's an idea here that as goes the leader, so goes the nation. But notice it's the land of the righteous, and you want to see in the land of the righteous that there are righteous who won't put their hands to do wrong. So conversely, you could say from this, instead of as goes the leader, so goes the nation, you could say as goes the nation, so goes the leader. And you ask, well, which one is correct? Which one is true? And I want to say yes, in that there's a tension between the two. Leaders affect the people, but I think people can affect the leaders And of course, if you happen to live like I do in a democracy, what we call a democratic republic, where the people have a say in choosing their leaders, and that's been true both of my sort of government, but it's been true to a certain extent of even where they had monarchies and kings. You could see it in Israel at times. Um, that there's a sense in which, and can I say it this way again, without me being necessarily mean or nasty or anything like that, but there's a sense, especially in my form of government, where, and I've said this before, that in the form of government that the United States enjoys, uh, people have a tendency to get the leaders they deserve, and that can be a bad thing or it can be a good thing, depending on if they've been righteous or wicked. Um, and I think that has a tendency to be in all sorts of forms of government. I'm not saying there's never an exception to it, but there's a tendency there where leaders and those who are being led have a relationship between each other. So pray for your leaders. Pray that they will hearken to the voice of the Lord. Pray for their leadership. Pray that the Lord would. There's one of the proverbs that talk about how the king's heart is like rivers in channels of water, and the Lord turns his heart. He turns that in whatever direction he chooses. And so pray that the Lord would turn the hearts of your leaders, both governmental, and I think we can even apply that to the church, that the Lord would turn the hearts of your leaders to righteousness, to do what is wise and good, because you'll benefit from that. And I'm saying do that. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat or something else. Pray for your leaders that the Lord would guide them. But we're not finished with the psalm yet. That's verse 3. We continue, and notice this is a statement, at least the way it's presented, is a statement of confidence. And that confidence is going to now go into the next section where we're going to see a petition. So the petition, do good, O Lord. And so this is a prayer for God's both the guidance, but also for his justice. Do good, O Lord, to those who are good. And so notice the good, the sort of the double good. And to those who are upright in their hearts, which is now synonymous parallelism. You're saying it in the first line, and then you're saying the same thing in the second line. Different words, but the same idea. Verse 5, but, and notice the contrast there. But as for those who turn aside to their crooked ways, that's just the opposite of doing good. As for those who turn aside to their good ways, the Lord will lead them away with doers of iniquity. So there's some doing there too, but it's going to go in a bad way. And so what we have here is remember how we had a statement of confidence before in verse 3? Now we have another statement of confidence, or do we? You see, that's one way that we can translate it, and I've been giving you the New American Standard, but there's another way we can translate it. We could translate it where it comes out as a prayer that continues from the previous prayer in verse 4. So verse 4 was obviously a prayer for God's justice. And depending upon your translation, we're going to look at a few different translations. For example, Robert Alter, he is a Jewish scholar, a scholar of Hebrew scriptures. And he has rendered this in his, and I use his book, is both a translation but also a commentary. And I have used it for this entire series. Now, I don't always agree with him, but I always want to hear what he has to say. And in this case, he renders it, notice instead of but, he renders that as an and the Hebrew vav there can be translated either as a but or an and. It can be either a conjunction of comparison, that would be and, or it can be a conjunction of contrast, that would be but. And so New American Standard rendered it as a but he renders it as an and that's perfectly possible. And those who bend to crookedness, which is sort of the same thing as those who turn aside their crooked ways. But notice the second line he renders as a prayer, may the Lord take them off with the wrongdoer. Notice instead of the Lord will lead them, may the Lord lead them away. May the Lord take them off with the wrongdoer. And Altair is not the only one who translates this as a prayer. There's a few other translations that do the same thing. So that the New English translation, notice now they don't even put the conjunction there. It's sort of understood. As for those who are bent on traveling a sinful path, may the Lord remove them along with those who behave wickedly. Notice again, it sees it as a prayer or a wish or a desire. We can also look at the Jewish Publication Society Tanakh. This is their translation. But, notice again the but those who in their crookedness act corruptly, let the Lord make them go the way of evildoers. So is it a statement of confidence or is it a prayer that continues from the previous verse? I'm not entirely sure. The prayer might actually be there. And that would connect with the last line, because the psalm's already over as we get to the end of verse 5. Peace be upon Israel. Now that's a closing benediction. And a benediction is a little bit of a prayer. Think about how we often give that Aaronic benediction. May the Lord bless you. We're not saying the Lord's going to bless you, but may the Lord bless you and keep you. Make the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And so here again, peace be upon Israel. Is that a statement of fact? Or is that a closing benediction, a closing, in a sense, sort of a prayer that may peace be upon Israel as these things take place? And the good news is that we have one who is the Prince of Peace, who came to earth to reconcile us with God, and his name is Jesus. And as you trust in him, then you find yourself brought into right relationship with the Lord. You find yourself at peace with God. And that's a good place to be.